coming. Thank you to the honorable speakers. My name is Ottavio Noelli, and I'm honored to be the project director of the program ClimSA, a program of OACPS Secretariat, funded by the European Union. Today's event is about mainstreaming climate information in African sub-region. And the subject of these events is enhanced understanding and importance of mainstreaming climate information services or policies, strategy and development plan. The second point to be discussed is the recommendation for improving the integration of climate services into policy and planning. And the third point will be how to strengthen networks and partnerships to support the ongoing and the future initiative between the different African regions inside a South-South cooperation system. I would like also to remember that this program now is a major program because it started more than 5 years ago, and finally we can really see a lot of results, practical results. In this presentation we will see how regions and even countries take advantage of climate service and how the decider, the policymaker, can use climate systems, climate service system to better manage climate change and climate adaptation. I will leave now the word to the team leader of ClimSA project for OACPS, Dr. Dieudonné Fakas.
We thank you for coming and responding to our invitation. We are really happy to welcome you in this last site event on mainstreaming climate information to policy, program, and strategy. Of course, after the Intra-ACP climate services and related application, what we call ClimSA in short, is an initiative funded by EU, as the moderator said, and managed by the Secretariat of the Organization of African, Caribbean, Pacific States. It is an initiative of 85 million, where we are supporting 8 regional climate centers among all the OACPS regions. We have 6 regions, or RCC, in Africa. We have 1 in the Caribbean, and 1 in the Pacific. So the objective of this program is really to capacitate the regional climate center in terms of improving the quality and the quantity of climate services they are delivering to member states through what we call the regional focal country, where we chose in each region 1 country where we are going to implement the climate service value chain. From that regional perspective of capacitating the regional climate center, then they will take that capacity to the member state. And today, we'd like to hear some experience, some success story, how the region have been doing the business of mainstreaming climate in the policy. So we welcome you to this debate and share of experience, which also supporting South-to-South cooperation. Thank you for being here, and we hope that this discussion will give us more insight and share experience among all the regions. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Faka. It's really very, very interesting how a big consortium with the All African Region, a Joint Research Center of European Union, EUMSAT, and AESA Consortium for the Technical Assistance with the support of European Union, INPA, could develop all together these results. And now we will enter directly in the topics, and I will call Mr. Washama of ICPAC to present the mainstreaming climate information into policy and decision making in East African region. Please.
My name is Kalisa Swachana. I work with ICAD Climate Prediction and Application Center based in Nairobi. I'm very glad to be here today to discuss the mainstreaming of climate services in policies, plans, and programs within our ICAD region. The ICPAC, as specialized institution of ICAD, and also a regional climate center, serves 11 countries in the region. And this region is highly impacted by climate-related extremes. Sometimes in a year you can have drought, then floods. The climatic extremes runs after each other, back to back, and it's mostly affected. Sometimes even is compounded by the weak infrastructure and even humanitarian crisis that happens in the region. Now, looking at climate services itself, as defined by WMO, as a provision of climate information in a manner that can support decision-making of individuals and organizations at various levels, because every level has its own unique needs. So the way ICPAC look at mainstreaming of climate services, it has to be at those particular levels. And when we just scanned through, we found out that key documents, national, regional documents, policy documents, some of them, and majority of them, they are deficient when it comes to integration of climate services in them. And that makes, it's a very unfortunate situation. And now what ICPAC did to mainstream the climate services in some of those key documents, one was to look at 3 levels. And at the subnational level, through ClimSA project, we adopted the so-called community-based adaptation tool called participatory scenario planning. And this one has been used by ICPAC to demonstrate climate services at subnational level in Kenya, a county called Machakos, and in Uganda, a district called Chiboka district. And it has shown tangible output or outcomes in those particular subnational levels. At the national levels, what we have done is that to support 2 focus countries, Kenya and Uganda, in terms of developing the national framework for climate services. I'm happy today that the Kenya National Framework for Climate Services, it was endorsed by the Kenyan Cabinet. We are planning to launch it in the first quarter of next year, so that it has that political launch. For the Uganda, we have done baseline assessment. We have also planned for the National Stakeholder Forum, which will be taking place 17th to 19th of December this year. I want to believe that when it comes by June next year, we shall be through with that particular process. When it comes to at regional level, ICPAC has worked very closely with ICAD Secretariat to establish ICAD regional climate change strategy. And this strategy has already been endorsed. In the strategy, it identifies 8 sectors and 11 cross-cutting priority areas for adaptation and mitigation. And beside that, ICAD has also developed the strategy for disaster risk management, aligned to Sendai framework for DRR, and continental program of action for implementation of DRR in Africa. Under ClimSA project at the regional level, we are started implementing the regional framework for climate services. We have already hired the consultant, is on the board, and he has already started working. We have shared the documents, and we do believe that by the, maybe hopefully by next year, we shall try to have a guide that will improve decision making and resilience across the region through the implementation or establishing of that particular guide. Maybe just to add, the other front is that we have tried to see how we can bring along the high-level decision makers in the region. What we did, we had 3 meetings. We had 3 meetings. The first meeting for high-level senior officers from ICAD member states, it was held in Uganda in 2022, and it was followed by one in Kenya 2023, and 2024, just this year, we also had a big meeting, a high-level meeting. The first meeting was to sensitize the decision makers on the create awareness on the need for integration of climate services. The second one was to demonstrate the benefits that is accompanied, by implementing climate services or integrating climate services. We had to show the cost-benefit benefits that is accompanied by climate services. I'm happy to note that the third meeting tried to consolidate the gains of the first and the second meeting. And this meeting, what transpired is that we secured commitment from the Minister of Finance in the member states to endorse the integration of climate services into the national policies, plans, and programs. And there were key things that were declared. We had a communique, and they committed to integrate climate services into the policies, programs across the region. They also agreed to strengthen institutional capacities that are involved in climate services. These are the sectors and the early warning agents. They also committed that to improve early warning services across the region. And maybe one that really touches my heart is to commit finance. They agreed that even part of the climate finance that they get maybe from developed countries, a portion of that particular fund should go to support climate services. And we know that there are only 2 countries that ClimSA is supporting, but we have other countries at 0 stage. And even other countries that have developed the national framework for climate services. For implementation, you need resources. So resources is very key, and they agreed to mobilize the resources and to enhance regional collaboration in terms of implementing some of these plans. Then monitoring, evaluation, and learning is very key to showcase the benefits of climate services and to learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Washana, for the intervention. Again, climate finance and to find how to finance the different countries in climate service, it's very important. please consider and that the GCF, the Green Climate Funds, start to finance more and more programs about climate services. So I think that quite a lot of work should be done to train people to prepare bankable programs to be presented to these funds that collect most of the money available for the climate change resilience. So this is clearly a recommendation that should be done. Sometimes we have the ideas, but we need to prepare the right dossier to be approved with also, and to be present to the donors. Now, let me introduce Professor Matuzo from ACMAD that will make again his presentation about sharing experience in the best practice and opportunity and challenges in mainstreaming into policy. Thank you very much, Professor. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you so much again for the opportunity, and on behalf of the ACMAD team, I also want to appreciate the OACPS Secretariat and the ClimSA project. For us at ACMAD, I think providing the continental mandate of mentoring med services, ensuring that they align their activities and situations based on the peculiarities of countries is very important. So our direct contact with them at the ACOF and ARCOF also provided a very good platform for cross-fertilization and downscaling of these ideas and good practices. So in 10 minutes, I will briefly share with you on behalf of ACMAD some of these best practices. At times it's good to start with the challenges, but as you design it, let's start with the good practices. Based on our interaction with and experience also with the National Med Service, who have direct contact with the last mile users, one good practice that we have seen existing and which has really also worked positively is by involving the policy makers at the outset level. We've seen many scenarios whereby there is no excellent collaboration between the Med Service and their supervising ministry. Meaning involving them, assuming under this ClimSA project or any activities of the Med Service. Don't just stop from the budget line. So the Med Service need to keep the ministry, the supervisor, well informed, and they could do that through series of activities. You could have a work plan of activities that you could stylishly forward to the minister for his approval. And by doing that, you are indirectly telling him that this is what you wanted to do. And when he sees you on the tele and also attending programs, he really sees that, he has been part of this, and then you are carrying him along. So, and that brings an excellent support also, and an ownership. So it's an indirect way of giving ownership. Don't just disconnect from the minister after approval of the budget line. So the best thing is to develop work plan and then align it with the mandate of the government and to get a buy-in. So the moment the minister feels important as a policy maker, carrying him along and the ministry along, so you get the best of support. And the second component also of best practice we've seen is aligning the service, especially climate service, is very relevant in all the sectors. So aligning it with the government of the day's development agenda. Assuming I will give an example, in many countries, renewed hope, renewed this, renewed this. So you could link the climate services delivery approach to the policy of the government. So it really gets the easy buy-in. So even for some of the public function, you could align it and say, okay, the role of climate services in achieving or fast-tracking, achieving the renewed hope agenda. So it will be seen that, okay, climate service is adding value and is giving government visibility. So they really get carried along and also get the best of support. And also Another good best practice is the power of involving the last mile community, because most governments are politicians, and by the time you involve the last mile community, they make input, they become interested, and the programs of climate services delivery become topic of the day. Yeah, downscaling workshop, roving workshop, for farmers, for climate agents at the community level. So the government look at activity, yeah, we could make noise about this. And so when they see communities are interested in certain things, so because they want to get the heart of the communities, so they could easily use some of the results and activities to showcase as their political agenda achievements. So, and you can get the best from them. And another also thing we have seen working is the issue of co-production with the last mile. And if you do the co-production, that brings about the ownership. And ownership leads to trust. And trust leads to, you get the best from the users when you involve them and they see that is their own baby. So by doing that, it really encourages participation. And with this co-production, you see that the ownership being spread to the different users. So government sees a lot of community involvement in that, and they could use that for many also achievements. So, last but not the least, under the good practices is also the partnership we have seen in some countries, which we have encouraged with the research centers and universities. It has worked excellently well and could also be shared with other parts of the world. And that brings also the disconnect between research outcome, policy formulations, and also service delivery. So by the time you bring the med services together with the research centers and universities, it plays out to be very excellent. And also for the second component on the challenges that we have seen also based on the continental scenario in many med services is limited public financing. So budgets are not always enough. And at times there's no way whether climate service compete with health, assuming during COVID. So and some agencies, some departments of med service are still a department under a ministry with a single budget line. So there is limited public financing of the climate services only through projects like ClimSA. But good result from ClimSA could make government adopt certain policy and integrate it with the best practice you're showing for government to finance it. I will give you an example. When I was heading the med service, started with a budget of 2 billion naira, but personnel and capital. And because of the visibility created and the government interest, before 2.5 years, we are running a government of a budget of more than 10 billion naira. So because our government see, we could use climate service to improve agriculture, to reduce health challenges, to do a lot of things, and the return period of extreme events that could be used for construction and other companies. So, and also the collaboration with other PPP through PPP invite a lot of funding into that. So limited challenges is very critical challenge to most med services. And another challenge is the problem of success. You graduate from basic service to advanced service to full service with relevance. So there will be demand from the users, from the health sector, from the environment sector, from the water resources, from the oil and gas and shipping. So demand of climate service from the users, if you're not careful as a med service, you could be run down because you need capacity of your staff, you need technology, you need funding. So at times it is also another challenge that I have seen, and that meaning that med service must also work faster to face with the technology, with the demand also. And also one challenge we have also witnessed in many countries is technological limitations. I'll give you an example with the bigger population countries in Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, 200 million, 250 million. So this, and you need to reach out to them. And like for some countries, you could reach out to them through GSM funds and other things. And you don't have the technology to reach out. So you have to leverage on partnership. And also the technology in observation, the technology in getting feedback. and the technology in developing products also is limited. And then also another challenge we've seen that in many med services in Africa is there's mistrust between the med service, who are mostly from the public sector, and also the private sector. So the med service are seeing that the private sector is coming to take their job, but they have more money, they have better technology. So, and I think WMO provided a platform on PPPE, and this mistrust is being really reduced, and which will provide also good platform. Another critical challenge is also most med services in Africa, they don't have strong institutional and legal framework. Some just exist as an appendage of a ministry. I know many med services that are not providing a single product or service, and they have more than 100 staff, and most of those staffs came to ACMAD, came to ACMAD, came to benefit. Okay. So, and then also another critical challenge is at times lack of capacity of the personnel also. ACMAD is really trying on OGT, on secondment and other things, but it requires funding to be able to do that in larger scale. Godfrey is here. For the last under ClimSA, we've trained about 50 people, but with additional funding, we could do more because the demand is very high. And also, at times there's challenge of duplication and overlapping of activities among the value chain horizontal. Climate change now is issue of finance. So most ministries of environment and agri are taking such responsibility of UNFCCC, climate change coordination at the country level. And so lastly, quickly under the 1 minute, sorry, I will run on the opportunities. The opportunities are very vital, and I've listed a few of them. So I'll just list them without explaining. One key opportunity is that it has been established that weather and climate services are key to achieving sustainable development. That is a good opportunity, at least, since climate service will now lead to and fast track achieving sustainable development. So it's a good market, it's a good opportunity of endless opportunities for the med service. And then also the issue of PPP versus the weather and climate services. So this is also another good opportunity. Med service transfer the risks of technology, transfer the risks of funding to the private sector. But you need a good legal framework to do that, so that you don't transfer your mandates to another person. And also, at times, we used to tell med service from ACMAD at the national level that don't enter into partnership at ground zero, because you go at the weak point, but reach certain level and then get a partner that would add value to what you are doing, and then you could share revenues. And also, last but not the least, there's a huge market and demand of climate services in Africa, in the developing countries, and that also is a big market. I tell you, we did a survey in Nigeria and realized if we could be getting 1 kobo from weather service using GSM platform, that would be a huge revenue per day, because you have 170 million GSM users, and they do get this app elsewhere. So if we could align with the service providers in the telecom, and then with the private sector to have refined services that people could use, so we could share the revenue with the private sector, and then there will be sustainability of climate service in Africa. So these are some key experience that ACMAD has built and also has seen based on the delivery of climate services. And thanks to ClimSA also for facilitating this opportunity for ACMAD. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you, ACMAD. Also to underline all these opportunities in climate service and how public-private partnership can work in many African countries, and how also it should be regulated. So now we will continue with other example, also going outside Africa, because this is our OACPS program that covers also Caribbean, that they are going to host us, by the way. And I leave the word to Dr. Faka, the team leader of Climate South for OACPS. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for giving us the floor. Yeah, of course, we don't have our colleague from the Pacific and the Caribbean, but we are there for them. We are working with them. We are working for them. Yeah, of course, I would like to share experience for Caribbean region, which is the the RCC Center hosted by the Caribbean Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology. In their side, they've organized what they call a consortium, where they gather all the partners from water resource management, from health, from tourism, from agriculture, even from the administration. From that consortium, they start to set up the objective in terms of what is the challenge and what is the answer we are supposed to provide. And after making that strategy, as my colleague from ACMAD was saying, you need to have a strategy. They set up a strategy, and now they dispatch the responsibility among themselves, where each organization should bring some input to resolve the problem. That's really a good example, as we call it, a co-design and co-production in the Caribbean region. So we are really acknowledging what CIMH is doing, and also they've developed a platform. I would like maybe to share with you that platform where they are putting all the results, all the outputs, so that any user can go in that platform to get the information what they need. And you will see exactly how that platform is organized. This is also a good experience. We can learn from them. The link is there. So they've created a link, what we call the Climate Output Portal. In that Climate Output Portal, we are trying to put all the outcome or the output, the outlook, the climate outlook from all the regions. As I said, that we have 8 regional climate centers ClimSA is supporting. In this portal, we are going to see product from Caribbean region, from Pacific region, and from Africa. And from Africa, we can get the sub-region from Eastern Africa, from Southern Africa, from Central Africa, where you can get that data. We are going to use this platform to put all together the product from ClimSA, to have in one-stop shop where you can get all the information from the climate outlook, so that you know which action is supposed to be taken. And this link or this portal will be also incorporated to knowledge management platform, where users and all other stakeholders can see what is being produced around the world through ClimSA region. Caribbean Climate Outlook newsletter from August to October. So you will see in that document, there is the focus and there is also the advisory. Which action should be taken for member state or decision makers to refer for those advice and to take a decision. So ClimSA is providing information to decision makers for them to prepare themselves. Of course, those meetings used to be held before the season, so that they have time. Of course, mostly 6 months ahead, they produce this kind of product, and my colleague will give us also a summary for Eastern Africa. In Southern Africa, we have also what they call SACOF, the Southern Africa Regional Climate Outlook Forum, where they prepare also that kind of outlook before the season. In that meeting, they call all the stakeholders from agriculture, from disaster risk management, from water resource management, even the dam management, like a Kariba, they come for that meeting to get the information and to prepare for themselves during the beginning of the season. What will be the next season? Which action should we put in place for us really to adjust or to mitigate the impact? I would like to call for your remembering on the last long drought condition, which is really the southern part of Africa has faced. As the science show that when we have El Nino phase in the Pacific area, southern part of Africa are experiencing the drought condition. And even now, they are still under the drought condition. And the member state from the government, from the SADC, the head office, the head of statement, or the head of state, they took the climate outlook generated by the SADC Climate Center, and they, based on that product, to issue the appeal for help. And that help was sent worldwide. And when you can look that document of the appeal, you will see there is a paragraph where they acknowledge that SADC-CSC did produce the 6 month ahead climate outlook, showing that the condition will be drought. And from there, they took that decision to say, can we prepare ourselves? By showing that the climate is going to be dry, they also use the product we call for monitoring to show you what was already experienced in the past for the last 6 months and what will be for the next 6 months. So it gives them already a good information to prepare themselves for which action is supposed to be taken. That's really a good example that in the southern part of Africa, they've really launched the appeal for help through following the advice or advisory note produced by the Climate Services Center. I would like to call my colleague from ICPAC to give us also a summary from the eastern part of Africa. Oliver, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Faka. I think maybe they need to appreciate what you have said. So thank you very much. I think a lot has been said. The challenges and the opportunities, for example, that were presented by Professor, of course, it also applies to Eastern Africa because by default we are part of ACMAD. But I just wanted to add and say that some of the good practices that we have. Dr. Faka talked about these online portals. So in Eastern Africa, we also have an online portal called the Eastern Africa Hazards Watch. It's actually, as you said, is a one-stop shop for risk information. So we have all the risk information in that portal platform, which is available for anyone in the Eastern Africa. Aside from that, we have also user interface platform. One of our premier user interface platform that we have for engaging users and stakeholders from different sectors is the GACOF, which we call the Greater Horn of Africa Climate Outlook Forum, and it has come of age. I think it's been there for a long time now. So we do this kind of engagement in forums 3 times a year based on the seasonalities that we have for the March to May, June to September, and also October to December season. And in this, we generate the outlook, and also we generate the associated advisories with sectors. So we have focal points from different sectors in each of our member states. And like we have the agriculture and food security, water and energy, etc. So we generate this, and we develop a bulletin every 3 months called a summary for decision makers. And this is actually it is just like this Caribbean climate outlook, where it's now shared with different nationalities, and then that, of course, there is the downscaling at the national and going even to subnational level. Aside from that general user interface platform, we also have specific user interface, and I think this is a good practice for the region. We have an advanced user interface platform for the agriculture and food security that we call FSNWG. So this is the Food Security Nutrition Working Group. So every month we have different sub-working groups. Climate is one of them. We have the IPC people coming with the severity indices. We have the livestock. We have the markets. So we come together every month. We share updates. And at ICPAC, because we are the secretariat, we develop a statement, a food security statement every month, which is also shared. So I think now through ClimSA, we are also supporting, and we've been strengthening these user interface platforms with support of ClimSA project. We have developed recently the water platform, and it's being operationalized now. I just wanted to say one of the challenge the challenges that you said applies to us, but I want to say two challenges that are really key as I close. I think the first one that we have in our region, we have, even with support with the JRC under ClimSA project, we have developed a lot of user decision support tools, like Agriculture Watch, we have the Drought Watch, very nice tools. But the challenge that we have is now bridging the gap between the people that ICPAC, the producers, and the users. Like if I talk about, for example, the extension actors, there is still that gap. We have not done a lot of outreach, and it is all linked to the problem that you talked about of finances and all those, because we are only limited, even under ClimSA we are limited only maybe to train the focal points with the intention that they will go and train other people. So that's one challenge. The other challenge, the last one, which I think is documenting the efforts that we have done in all the initiatives, even in ClimSA, because even I attended a meeting within this COP, and I think one of the challenge why we don't get funding is that we don't really document the impact of the initiatives that we have. Like if I just go to simple Google now and I type ClimSA, it takes me to OACPS as the first thing. And but I mean, in terms of the impact of this initiative, which is a big initiative, 85 million, what is the impact to the last mile, to the societies? That is what we need to do. Show like maybe things like when we do the baseline and then the end line, and then we start to say, maybe in terms of resilience, this is what we have done. Maybe the resilience index has improved by this, that this. Those people who are accessing climate information has. So those are the things that we need to really do so that we can, because with this we can unlock a lot of funding from the donors for adaptation. So with that, I say thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just to answer to your last point, as a ClimSA program, we are preparing a publication just to capitalize the best example in the different regions and different countries on how climate service practically is used by the population, which are the advantage. And also the sub-tools that has been presented during this COP several times in other side events, it's something very tangible, it's something very practical. Of course, climate service and program on climate service should not stop because it's science. Science is progressing. Now the next step, how will be organized the climate service with the artificial intelligence that is already there? How we will reorganize? This will be a huge reorganization, and I'm sure that in the next 2-3 COPs we will talk about this and how to use this to facilitate the data to the final users. Thank you. Now I will leave the floor again to Dr. Faka just to close our side events. This COP, this is the last side events that our program, OACPS Climate Service, is organizing this COP. We did our side events, I think were very successful. So thank you to all the team. I would like also to really to thanks all the region that host us this year. Today is the Caribbean, but also the African Pavilion, the Pacific Pavilion, and all the speakers to our side events, because I think that we can make a synthesis of how we work now in this region on the climate service. The floor is to you.
Thank you, moderator. Really, we are honored to see you among the speaker for today. And we thank first our host, the CARICOM Pavilion, for giving us really a good opportunity really to show South-to-South cooperation. As you can see that what we have done here was not only for Africa, but it was really a combination with Caribbean, Pacific, and Africa, which is showing really the spirit of the OACPS to share experience among the global south, how they can really face this climate change impact and really to mitigate on the climate-based, the science-based product, what we are doing under ClimSA. We are also thanking the European Union for supporting this initiative with this grant, and we expect that this one will not be the same, the last offer for us to continue. As you can see that there are already many initiatives have been done, but we need to follow up. For example, my last speaker have raised some concern how to reach the last mile. Yeah, of course, I would like to tell you that it was not a part of the description of this current one. The current one was just stopping on capacitating the regional center and the pilot country. And we like to see, for if willing to have the next step or the next stage for ClimSA, now we can focus how to capitalize on the service we already built and to go on ground to assess the benefit. As we saw during the presentation that one of the steps of the climate value change is the evaluation of the outcome. That's what we like really to emphasize for the next phase of this program. And we like also to thank all the member states, the Regional Climate Center, with support with material. Thank you for ACMAD, we thank ICPAC, we thank ACMAD, we thank also CAPC in Central Africa and SADC for all the material, the effort they are doing for us really to give our region with tools to adapt on climate change. For now, I would like really to convey to you sincere felicitation on what we have done on behalf of our Assistant Secretary General, Ms. Pratt, was the head of the delegation. To thank you again, and to thank also the Caribbean Pavilion for offering us this good environment and sharing our experience. Hoping to see you for the next stage. Thank you.